Yes, you're right, Ben. I do have to keep watching your channel, and I think it's very entertaining, to be honest. Just a quick, I'll just start with this quick clip here of Nick Pope. Ben doesn't seem to like Nick Pope very much, but remember Nick Pope, the chap that initially said, well, you know, he just sat behind a desk at the Secretariat A2A, whatever it was, at the Ministry of Defence, and recorded UFO reports. Now, he seems to have promoted himself to being a sort of field investigator, a lot like Fox Mulder. So, Nick Pope, oozing embellishment over the years, and he's making a good living out of it, lives in America now. But I've always thought that, well, recently anyway, that Nick Pope looks a lot like a Wolfman, doesn't he? So perhaps you know, there might be something to these shape-shifting aliens after all. Nick Pope may in fact be a wolfman, a real or wolfman. Actually, he looks more like a wolfman from the side than the front. But, anyway, this is a clip from Ben's latest video, Facing the Danes. Ben the JR Porter. I'll leave a link to this video below. And I'm just going to make a couple of comments on some of the stuff that's in this particular video. Most of it's absolute rubbish, of course, but there is one case that he mentions that is quite interesting, and that's this thing in Nottinghamshire. Now, I haven't done a great deal of research into it, but it is quite interesting. I don't think it was an alien spacecraft, of course, because alien spacecraft aren't going to come here and crash. But it may very well be that something did crash in Nottingham. But a little bit of research required there, I think. Might have been something interesting happened there. I'm not sure if a lot of these fanciful tales are true about TV antennas being split in half and chimneys being knocked off and, you know, windows being blown in on some houses and sucked out on others. I don't quite know where I would get that accurate information from, but it's certainly an interesting tale, and I think that's probably worth a video on its own, so I'll leave that out. But I will talk about the Solway Spaceman and the ridiculous comments Ben makes with regard the alien spacecraft sticking out of the ground in the middle of the high street. Okay, so I'll just stop this clip here and go on to the Solway Firth Spaceman. The first hour and a half of this video is Ben walking along the street, riveting stuff. You may want to skip to about 1 hour 30 when the, I was going to say the interesting stuff, but that may not be strictly speaking true, starts. Okay, but anyway, I'd never heard of this one, but here's the Solway Spaceman. This, of course, is a picture of a little girl. Well, we'll see the spaceman in a tick.
You had to take the film to the chemist shop, and then only then would you get the prints back. You couldn't just upload them to Facebook like you do now.
Oh yeah, supposedly the guy didn't see the spaceman when he took the picture. And they've had the picture verified, and it's not a fake, it's a real picture, which means that whatever that is in the original photograph. You know, it's not been cut and pasted, or you know, it's not two images blended together. Whatever this is a picture of is in the picture. So in that regard, it's a real picture. What it isn't, of course, is a picture of a spaceman in the background.
Those. So he's the guy at the chemist shop, and it's a shame that the guy in the beekeeper's suit ruined that photograph. He must have just walked behind you. And Jim Templeton said no one else was there, and he said nobody was there, it was just him, Annie, and the little girl, Elizabeth. Have a closer look at that image.
Okay. Now, is he gonna? Hang on, let's just see if it gets. We need to see just a little bit more of the spaceman.
This is a bit of a blow up of that. You see, there's Elizabeth. Now, this thing behind it, vaguely humanoid. It's like the top half of a humanoid figure. Now, he's been accused of faking this, even though he took it to Kodak, the people who made the film, the famous film company, and they was absolutely convinced that this was not fake. It'd be very, very difficult to fake this image because you have like a layering problem here. Do you notice there's a strap?
Yeah. So they're saying that it's not a fake image. All that means is, whatever this is in the original, is on the original negative. This was in the background when the photograph was taken. Now, I'm just going to stop this clip here and go to another website that shows this a little bit better, because we're not getting enough. We're not getting enough of the Spaceman here. So I'll just go to the next clip. Okay, so here we go to trusty Wikipedia, Solway Firth Spaceman. And here is the image. Here's the image. This is not the image in its entirety, it's cropped, but it does show what I wanted to show you, which is the head of the Spaceman. Now, this looks to me like a very obviously contrived fake. I think what's actually happened, it's a real photograph. This is in the photograph, so the photograph itself is not a fake. What has been faked is that he says that he never saw this in the background, and I think he did. I think the bottom of the Spaceman is very obviously deliberately obscured by the girl's head. And that's because the Spaceman is wearing a frock. I think this is his wife. And I think what she's wearing here is a protective smoke hood, maybe? Something like that. Maybe a hazmat, top part of a hazmat type arrangement with a full face shield there. And the reason I think that is because Mr. Templeton, the guy that took this photograph, is a fireman, and firemen are issued with smoke hoods, protective gear, you know, sort of hazmat type thing that you pull over the top, you know, put your arms in there, looks a little bit bloated, and you know, I think there are a couple of protrusions here, so I don't think this is the wife walking away. I think this is the wife standing behind the daughter, wearing this thing that Jim's brought home from his fire station, because he's got this picture in mind. She's put it on, she's standing behind the girl, and she's leaning a bit because Jim's saying, you know, left a bit, right a bit, because he wants to, he needs to ensure that the frock that she's wearing, that's sticking out the bottom here, see her legs sticking out the bottom of the frock, of course, if she took a step to the side, he's making sure that that's obscured, and that's why that picture is like that. That's why the Spaceman is not there, or the Spaceman is not there. The Spaceman is deliberately obscured because it's not a Spaceman. It's Mr. Templeton's wife. And we'll just read a little bit of this. I'm reading this through the camera viewfinder again. The Solway Firth Spaceman, so I'm not reading it terribly well probably, also known as the Solway Spaceman or the Cumberland Spaceman, is a figure seen in a photograph taken in 1964 by a fireman. Oh, and he's a photographer as well. So, you know, a local historian, Jim Templeton. So, Mr. Templeton is a fireman, sort of guy that's going to be issued with this kind of protective apparel. Said to his wife, put this on, we'll have a bit of fun here, put this on, stand over there, left a bit, right a bit, you know, we need the bottom half of you obscured because we can't have a spaceman wearing a frock. And he's taken the picture. And also Ben says that Jim went up there with his wife and his daughter. He actually went up there with his two daughters. It'll be interesting to see what the other daughter had to say about this, but personally I think the picture is a staged scene. In that regard, it is a fake. This is no spaceman, this is his wife. He's wearing some hazmat gear he's brought home from work. He's a fireman and he's a photographer. So, you know, left a bit, right a bit. Make sure she's obscured. Bottom half of her is obscured. Yeah, you can even see by the way, you know, she's leaning, that he's saying left a bit, right a bit, you know, and she's moving over to the one side, then she's moving back over to the other side. That's why she appears to be leaning a bit. She's probably not leaning as much as she appears to be, because if you look at the horizon is leaning as well, so she's not leaning quite as badly as it would appear there. But the mumbling analysis of that image, staged fake. Very obviously a staged fake. Okay, on with the next clip. Okay, this is we've skipped over a couple of things here. The the Nottingham UFO case and the Pentridge UFO case. Yeah, I may deal with those individually, although the Pentridge thing, I mean, I was watching that other guys. I might do a couple of comments with regard to the other fellas. The UFO magazine, UFO Truth magazine editor or owner, whatever, was did a thing on Neil Peel's channel, I think it was, regarding that one. And there are, of course, answers for every point he makes. It was a multinational exercise, completely different to the average sort of military exercise he's talking about. That's why the bigwigs were flown out from Northolt. Anyway, as I'm going off at a tangent there, let's just stick with what we're talking about. So anyway, this I might look at Pentridge and the other Nottingham one as individual cases in a little more detail. Ben really desperately wants this to be true. This again is from Fleecing The Danes, and this is from 258.43. And Ben loves this. He's he really loves the idea of alien spacecraft coming here and crashing for some reason.
This is an interesting picture, isn't it? Now, believe it or not, this I just googled flying saucer crash in a city.
As you would.
I came up with this. Still, this is from a computer game, Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not a gamer, as we say in English. I don't play many computer games, but I might play this just to see what this is all about now. You see, a very strange thing. This is a crossroads in a big city, and so that's Copenhagen. It looks a bit like Copenhagen, actually. And a large flying saucer has come right down in the middle of the city, and they just crashed in front of everyone, in front of a large centre of population. And this is what the debunkers tend to say. Is they always bring this subject up. They say, well, how come whenever a UFO crashes, how come it always crashes in some remote location? It's always the devil's armpit, Nevada, isn't it? It's always like, oh, it's Roswell, it's right in the middle of the desert. Oh, it's on a Welsh hillside somewhere where no one's around. How come, why don't they just come down in the middle of a city where we all can see it when they can't cover it up? But that never happens, does it?
That's very true, it never does. And that's because it never happens in the country either, because this is all science fiction. Alien spacecraft do not come here and crash. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The technology would be beyond our imagination. They are not going to fly light years across space, come here and crash. That is just ridiculous nonsense.
Because it's not real, it must be. Well, there's two answers to that. The first,
I can hardly wait,
is that it's why should? Seeing as we've only been monitoring these crashes, we only know of crashes dating back to the late 19th century. If any happened before then, they've not been reported. But
oh, you mean back in the days before there were cities, Ben?
When you consider the actual density of human population on the Earth,
and the density of the average person that believes this sort of stuff.
There's a lot of us around. I mean, was it 7 billion? I don't know who counts them. It could be quite a job. But there's about 7 billion of us on this little planet of ours. We tend to be concentrated in sort of small areas, and it's not in a densely populated area. People who live in these densely populated areas, it's hard to imagine. But here in Copenhagen, for example, there's millions, I don't know how many people live in this city.
Well, yeah, I mean, in England, Europe, it's pretty densely populated, isn't it, really? Yeah, I hope he gets to the point quick. I don't have to pause the camera and flick through this, but there was something he said that I thought was absolutely bloody ridiculous, and that was the point I wanted to make. If he just gets to the point.
But there's a large number of people, thousands upon thousands, living in a small area. Same with Oxford, same with London. In Britain, there's actually almost, I think there's almost 60 to 65 million people. And we're all living on an island, or a group of islands, where there's 255,000 square miles. So Britain and Denmark, indeed, are very densely populated countries by global standards. With other countries, it's different. With other areas of the world, it's different. Human population is much more sparse. In fact, if you look at the...
Yes, but this is not answering the question, is it? You know, why don't they crash in London or Paris or Brussels or Birmingham or Manchester or Leeds or Doncaster? You know, Amsterdam, Nice, Cannes, Joinville-le-Pin, Rome, you know, all these places that's packed with people. Never ever crash there, because they never ever crash.
The entire Earth's surface, almost 3/4 of it is water. It's almost 3/4 of it is covered by the sea. But the remaining, I think, 30%.
Yeah, sorry about this. I thought he gets to the bit that I wanted to comment on a little bit quicker than this, so bear with me, please.
Half of that land surface is almost totally uninhabited. Nobody lives there. It's either too hot, it's too cold. Because there's no point living there, because you can't keep warm, you can't keep cool. There's no water. There's all kinds of other reasons why you can't have large...
Yeah, but this is not explaining why they don't crash in cities, is it?
...scale human habitation. So, again, that really, you have to come down to 15% of the entire Earth's surface for any size...
See, the other thing you've got to bear in mind, too, is that cities are going to be far more interesting for aliens to take a look at if they're going to come across some light years of space. They're going to be far more interested in looking at cities and, you know, how we live and all that sort of stuff than they are at... hovering above a bit of desert, you know, where there might be a cactus, a coyote maybe, you know. This is drivel, absolute twaddle.
Human population of any kind. And when it comes to large cities, that's even smaller. You're probably looking at maybe a couple of % of the entire Earth's surface is populated to the extent you see here. So it's when a UFO crashes, even if it's one per year, as Ryan Wood was saying.
No, it's none per year. No alien spacecraft has ever crashed on this planet. It's just nonsense.
It's unlikely this is ever going to happen. It could happen, but the odds are against it happening very, very often, where something comes down on that little 1 to 2%. Which is densely populated like this. But the second answer to that, the debunkers...
Oh, yeah, this I think this is the funny bit.
Point there.
The funnier bit.
When they say, well, how come they never land in the middle of a city? Is they do. Things like this do happen in the middle of a city. I mean, how many of you have heard of the Varginha incident in Brazil? Anyone heard of that one?
Brazil, that's where all the nuts come from, isn't it?
26, yeah, that was a very interesting case. It was a town of about 100,000 people, and there was a UFO came down just outside it, but aliens were wandering the streets. It was an amazing case. And
okay, when was this? Was technology around at the time? Is there any television imagery of this? Any photographs? I'll look that one up, I think.
I've looked into this, and I think there was something really weird going on there.
Because if there was anything like that, of course, that is conclusive proof of extraterrestrial life. So you would think that everyone and his dog would be aware of that. And some people probably would have got a Nobel Prize out of it, maybe.
So that does happen, and of course the debunker will say, well, if that happened, it would be all over the news, wouldn't it? Everyone would know about it. You couldn't keep this secret, because people...
Well, that's right, you couldn't. It'd be impossible.
Be walking along, and they'd see this flying saucer there in front of them. So therefore the secret would be out. Unfortunately, I've got to disagree with that, and it's a sad fact, but the people in government know an awful lot about human psychology. They know what makes us tick up here. They've been studying us for a long time about how we think and how we feel and how...
Is he talking about the government or the aliens here? Now, this, I think, is beyond ridiculous.
Our thoughts and feelings can be manipulated, and indeed our memory can be manipulated, and our actions, therefore, can be manipulated. So, which means that if the media is a controlled media, which is designed to produce false information, to give false information to disinform us, rather than information to inform us, I suspect, sadly, that in a situation like this, they would find some way to wriggle out of it. They would say, when this happened, people who walk in on there, they see the flying saucer there. And they go home, and they see a news story which said, something, it's like a novelty story at the end when all the serious stories are over. A large bouncy castle at a children's party or at the Tivoli Gardens or something. It suddenly flew up into the air, was caught by the wind, and it landed at the crossroads. It's a little novelty fairground ride, looks a little bit like a flying saucer. And it's landed there. The people at Tivoli Gardens are very worried they're going to come and collect it soon. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that, just a freak bit of wind.
Now, have you ever heard anything quite so ridiculous? If you had a scene like this would be the leading item on the news. For a start, there would be hundreds, if not thousands, of people would flock there, all with their iPhones, video cameras, the television stations. They'd be all over it. Absolutely all over it. I mean, if I saw an alien spacecraft sticking out the middle of the high street, no one would be able to convince me I'd just seen a bouncy castle that had been blown away from a fairground in the wind and had just landed at the traffic lights. Especially if there's a gaping great chasm in the ground. Don't see many bouncy castles generating huge chasms in the ground here. I have never heard, well, I probably have. I was going to say I've never heard anything quite so ridiculous, but I do watch a lot of stuff on YouTube about this subject, so I probably have. And I do watch a lot of Ben stuff, a lot of Miles Johnson stuff as well. Absolute drivel. Absolute drivel. Nonsense. Everyone and his dog on the planet would know if this happened. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people would be there immediately. The dash cams, iPhones, TV stations would be there in an instant. All these freelance people that would be out there with their cameras selling the footage to the TV stations. There is absolutely no way this would be covered up. It would be impossible to cover up an alien spacecraft crashing in a city. Not possible. Absolute drivel. Okay, well, that was all I wanted to say about that, really. I'm just going to leave you with another couple of quick clips that I think might explain quite a lot. I think we'll go from here to Ben on his response to me, where I asked about Colin, his scientist. I asked if Colin had ever been under the care of a mental health professional. Ben really didn't like that question very much at all. And in the clip following this one, we'll see exactly why that is. Okay, now the next couple of clips relate to comments Ben has made about mental illness. Now, I don't want to make a joke about mental illness or poke fun at anyone that suffers from mental illness. Why I'm including these two clips is to show that when I asked questions about Colin, Ben's scientist, I said, has he ever been under the care of a mental health professional? That's just the way he was talking, the things he was saying led me to believe that may very well be the case. And I've thought in the past that, not seriously actually, that Ben may have some sort of mental health issue. But in the second clip, we'll see that apparently he has. Now, again, I'd like to reiterate, this is not poking fun at Ben or Colin or anyone else with mental illness. What I'm going to do, what I'm trying to do by showing these two clips, is show that people with these ridiculous beliefs may well be or have been under the care of a mental health professional, because this may, whatever the mental illness is, may lead to them being gullible enough to believe a lot of this absolute rubbish that's out there. So, you know, in the past I've said, you know, he doesn't believe this, obviously. This is too ridiculous for words. You know, I've made comments like that. Now, too, I've never been under the care of a mental health practitioner. Many have suggested that might be a good idea from time to time. Oh, by the Einstein haircut, by the way. It's not white, not yet, but it may very well be that, you know, if these people do have genuine mental health issues, then that in itself may make them gullible. They may genuinely believe stuff out there that most people consider ridiculous nonsense. So that's why I'm including these two clips. The first clip is I asked you know, if Colin had ever been under the care of a mental health professional, and we'll take a look at Ben's response. And then after that, I'll tack on another clip from his latest video, Fleecing the Danes. Facing the Danes, where he actually does say that he has been, you know, he has had interactions with psychologists that left him damaged. So that may be why he makes some of the ridiculous claims he makes. One of them, I didn't comment on it, and I should have included it in a previous video, was that with the Apollo moon landings, he's saying it's faked. And he said that, I think Jodrell Bank or somebody was tracking the spacecraft down to the lunar surface, and Ben says, well, how do they know it was an Apollo spacecraft? You know, it could have been a TR-3B. Now, we're talking about 1969. I don't think we've actually proved the existence of the TR-3B today, even if it was. What he's suggesting is that the technology in 1969 was just so far advanced, you know, and if we had a TR-3B in that they were filming that instead of two men in a pressurised tin can, you know, which is more likely. There's two guys in a pressurised tin can going to the moon in 1969, and hats off to those guys. I certainly would not have the backbone to do that. Or there's a highly advanced, I think the TR-3B is supposed to be some sort of anti-gravity craft, isn't it? They were tracking some kind of highly advanced piece of machinery. You know, why? What? It will be orders of magnitude more technologically advanced. So why believe that rather than, you know, the anti-gravity craft, rather than there's two guys in a pressurised tin can, you know, which is perfectly suitable 1969 technology. Perhaps he does believe that. And perhaps he does believe that because he's gullible enough to believe that. And he may be gullible enough to believe that because he does have some underlying mental health issue. Again, you know, that's not ad hominem, that's not poking fun. That's just an observation. Okay, well, let's proceed with the next two clips.
A question I'd be asking the scientist as well is, I'll ask Ben to ask the scientist if he's ever been under the care of a mental health professional.
Oh, so we're nuts now, are we? Can you see how unprofessional you are being, Steve?
Well, that's because I'm not a professional, Ben. I'm just an amateur YouTuber. I make videos for a bit of fun. I'm not a professional. Why on earth would I be professional? I'm not being paid for this. This is just a bit of fun. And I think that's a very good question, because he sounds to me like that may very well be the case, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you know, obviously I could be wrong. It's an impression I get, but you know, and I think the fact that Ben jumps on this suggests that may very well be the case.
You're not doing yourself any favours here, mate. You're really not.
I think that would be an interesting question for it.
No, it wouldn't. Stupid question.
Let's see what...
Stupid question. Not so sure about that one. What about an answer to that question, Ben? Simple no would suffice, but I suspect it's far more likely to be a simple yes. Okay, let's go on to the next clip. I think the comment that Ben makes at 3:31:09, this is 3:31:05, so we're not quite there yet, but the comment he makes at 3:31:09 gives us a pretty clear indication as to why he bit so hard on the comment I made in the previous video with the Apollo defectives about Colin. I said perhaps we should be asking Colin if he's ever been under the care of a mental health professional, and Ben really didn't like that question at all. And I said at the time, well, why not just a simple yes or no? But yes, Ben didn't like that question at all, and this is why. And I think this also explains a lot of other stuff that Ben appears to believe. Stuff that's just ridiculous beyond words. And I think this may help to explain it. It's not very loud, this, so I hope it comes out on the camera okay. I'm just going to stop talking for a second to let the AGC on the camera turn itself up a bit.
Then you can do it, because we know that the media uses psychological experts. I've had personal encounters with a few of these people. It's not pleasant. I'll save that story for another time, but I've had personal encounters with psychological experts. They're very, very unpleasant people who did me a lot of damage.
Yes, okay, so Ben has been done a lot of damage by these psychological experts or psychological people. So yes, I think that explains a lot. I think that's why he really didn't like that question, and he probably he probably got a little angry at that because I'd hit the nail on the head. And he said, "Oh, what are we, a bunch of nutters, are we? We're all nutters now, are we?" Rather than just answering the question. So I think that tells us all very clearly why. In the previous clip, he didn't take very kindly to the question about Colin's mental health. Okay, I don't know whether to end it here or whether there'll be anything tacked on the end, but if I end it here, thanks for watching as always. I'll catch you again, and if I don't end it here, on with the next clip. So there we are. I've been doing a fair bit of blinking because I've been working on the house. It's Australia, it's February, it's bloody hot. Sweat is running down in my eyes. My eyes are a bit dry, a bit salty, so blinking a bit there. And still am. So there we go. But the fact that psychological experts have done Ben some serious damage may indicate that, as I said in the clip previously, that he is gullible enough to believe some of this ridiculous nonsense. I mean, personally, I could not mistake a crashed alien spacecraft in the high street for a children's bouncy castle. I certainly don't believe that Jodrell Bank were tracking a TR-3B down to the lunar surface back in 1969. Or that 9/11 was an inside job. Directed energy weapons brought down the buildings. Truly ridiculous. This may be why Ben gives credibility to people like Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen says, "Oh, no one's ever told me I'm wrong." Well, take a look at some of my videos, Mr. Allen. You're talking out of your backside perpetually. And same with Scott Henderson. I'd never heard of Scott Henderson before, but zero credibility, absolutely zero credibility. Yet Ben seems to believe and support what Scott Henderson has to say. I suspect there's probably more people involved in spruiking all this conspiracy stuff have been under the care of psychologists or mental health professionals. Again, I laugh there, but it's not a funny matter really. It's it's not a funny matter at all. But it does indicate that people that do not need psychological help, people that are capable of telling, are more capable of telling fact from fiction. I can look at something and say it's obvious rubbish, whereas Ben or someone else might look at it and go, oh yeah, I can see there's something to that. Yeah, free energy, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anti-gravity, yeah, sign me up. And it's all absolute rubbish. There we go, and I think that's why people tend to believe it. They believe it and they spruik it. Marcus Allen's case, I don't think Marcus Allen has mental health issues. I think he's just a deliberate twaddle peddler. Well, he does it every bi-monthly, doesn't he? All right, well, I think that's enough for me. I'll finish with my Muttley laugh, and perhaps I'll catch you again. It's February in Australia. It appears to be clouding over. Can you believe that? I live on the western side of Australia. I'm not over the other side where they've been having all the bad weather. Here it's just relentless blue sky, and I've been up early this morning painting, so the paint, it dries so quickly over here in the summer that you can sort of paint a line, paint the door frame. You get 2 foot down the door frame, the top part of it's tacky, so when you go back and try and smooth it in, the paint drags. It's dried already, so been up early doing that sort of thing. Anyway, that's by the by. All right, and bye. As Mr. Corbett used to say, remember that? Mr. Corbett with Sooty and Sweep. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Say bye-bye, Sooty. That's Sooty without his clothes on. Catch you next time.